So many of you have been asking me, hey Dan, but what about Amazon's writing assignment? How important is it, and how do I go about structuring it, and how do I ensure that this is what they're looking for? And I believe that my best piece of advice here is to give you an example of how I would make one, and actually I built it as a Google document into which I added my comments. So there you will see advice both when it comes to its structure as well as when it comes to how to go about keywords and how to go about revising it, and also some links to some external resources, including other examples that you will hopefully find interesting. So just one more note, all the links that I will present you in the Google document are also linked in the video description right next to the Bezos button. So the question here would be, what is the most innovative idea that you worked on? And I begin with the situation. 5 years ago, I was involved in an enterprise HR software application that failed to attract a sizable audience, but the idea of HR products in a digital context is something that caught my curiosity, and I genuinely believe there are many billion-dollar ideas yet to be capitalized in this domain. Immediately after exiting the software business, I started brainstorming for the possibility of other HR concepts, first by sharing content through LinkedIn, where I polished my writing style by publishing various articles around HR analytics and structured hiring. This got some people interested in the concepts, but again, scale was relatively small, just a few hundred people would read them, and more importantly, I didn't feel like that audience was the most interesting space to grow. I even attended a few conferences, including online ones, but still I felt like that there was a better approach here. And one day I found something interesting. In the same way that websites were becoming a trend for anyone to publish content of public interest more than a decade ago, these days video are becoming an even better alternative to showcase content and ideas. And then I go with the action. So why not use the same approach to share HR content? This sounded even more interesting in an HR context simply because video is often about storytelling, and so is HR, and this played a role as an accelerator in my case. Good interviews are about great conversations and ultimately storytelling. So I was confident it's a good idea, but there was just one problem. Producing video content is hard. There are mainly for two reasons. I did more than 1,000 pitches throughout my career, out of which around 70 were successful. However, all of them were submitted in writing. Speaking them is a whole different challenge, especially for broader audiences. And the second reason why this is hard is there are significant investments to be made if you want your videos to look decent, and the challenge here is that it takes months to have an eye for these things. The other challenge here is the type of market is extremely competitive, so you should always keep raising the production quality, including your tools. Here's a simple example of a challenge. My first 10 videos are actually impossible to watch as they have poor sound, something not obvious to think about when you're just getting started doing videos. Now, this being said, I did have some strengths, such as persuasiveness is something that got me most of my success in life, and especially while dealing with failure. The other strength that I have is my hands-on experience in digital HR, and I have plenty of previous experience in recruiting people, mainly in IT, and also the unique opportunity to observe every digital step of about 200 hiring managers, most of them small business owners in the US services market for 5 years. Not to be underestimated here is the power of YouTube as an accelerator. You see, you can post videos on a website too, but the challenge will always be getting a fair shot at making your content available to enough people. This is what YouTube does best. They give anyone a fair shot to publish their content, and so long as your idea is innovative enough, it does have chances to attract and hopefully retain an interesting audience. And finally, the results. This is something that I focused from day one, when people would only watch 1 minute of my videos in average, and still working to improve upon the 5-minute average viewing time that I achieved so far. The benefit of this approach is, besides improving my view time, I also a considerably longer term value of my content. Now, why would anyone want to consume HR content? That can only be in order to get a better job. And it took me a year and a few thousand hours of work in the process to realize this. But luckily for me, by the time I understood how my content would become more appealing, I also improved my video production skills, and this is the type of effect you're definitely after when you want your content to go viral. 1 million views is not a large view count by YouTube standards, but it gets more interesting when looking at some more impactful outcomes dozens of people getting hired into well-paying jobs, and publicly endorsing me for my work, plus a financially viable business model through publishing videos on YouTube is something that I'm quite proud of. Alright, now when it comes to some good ideas here, is the first thing I wanted to say is that, okay, you can stay scrappy. As you notice, I didn't really invested too much time into this since it's just a sample, but proofreading it is essential. So if you've never been into writing, you should just take it for granted. Proofreading is something you cannot really get over with, and proofreading by someone else, not by you. And as much as I'd want to hope that editors are getting better and better over the days to spot punctuation problems, they're nowhere near production ready. So unless you know what you're doing, proofreading is a good idea. Also, as far as I know, 8,000 characters is the upper limit where you'd want to be. Mine is around 4,000 characters, and 6,000 characters seems to be the recommended size. That is 2 pages. And by the way, notice here I also have another example, a highly technical one. Also, last but not least, consider Amazon's flywheel concept. So it's actually quite straightforward to understand. So it basically says that by increasing any of the elements on that flywheel, you have good chances of improving your business success. So I could have also done this in my story to say that, hey, the more visitors I have, the more clients I will get for my business. And finally, of course, always end on a positive note. And this being said, I also want to thank you for watching this. And as always, I hope you found this content useful. Thank you.